Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. I just realized. Fuck me. Okay. Hi. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. You couldn't hear any of that. So, all right. I did a demonstration of the new pants that I bought. I was just talking about the new pants I bought from some company. I didn't know exactly what country the pants were going to come from, but they came pretty quick. I don't think they were from China, or at least they weren't in China when I ordered them. They came much quicker than I thought. Had to return them, and they came in much quicker than I thought. And I'm just pretty happy about it because it's got all the chains, the bells, and the whistles. And last time I had pants like this, I didn't look as good as this. And so to pull off looking like this at 45 is, it's like you have to appreciate the now, because the dark path of longevity and long life, you're seeing what it is doing to everybody who's taken it. Right? Kelly Osbourne. I don't know what's going on because of who her mother is, but that's mostly Ozempic you're looking at. Right? The Ozempic has eaten away at her natural, healthy, chubby cheeks, with a modest diet plan could have given her the look she was looking for. She's not that old. I think she's younger than me. Do you realize how horrifyingly mutated that universe is making people? And what the hell is going through their minds? And why aren't they looking for a better relationship with themselves? Anyway. So we left off at this Mishnah, I believe. All right. Did you know the theory that Jesus... Okay, I can't handle that right. I just told you I was live, motherfucker. All right, Mishnah. Hey, what's up, Pasta? Dude, glad you're here. Things are heating up. Things are heating up. Right? I live in that hysterical dichotomy of like, wait a minute, you're against the whole Jewish plot thing. I certainly am. And Islam is part of a Jewish plot thing, if you didn't know. And so I don't care why Israel seems to be like this feels like the very first time. First off, this has been a sum of all fears. That moment that America and Israel team up with the rooster and the chicken hawk situation, right? You know, and like it's finally fucking happened, right? This is a full-blown American-Israeli assault, and the world is not coming to save Iran. This is a very, very important point. Now, either that... Now... This also means, and perhaps it is because of a sad reality that the conflict in Palestine has over because Palestine has truly been defeated. But one way or the other, whether it is because Palestine has been defeated, or I suppose maybe we're saying Hamas has been defeated. And, you know, Shia Islam's destabilization of the region has been defeated. And there's something to be said about that, because if this region stays stabilized, depending on the honor of this war, and Israel is not known for honor, this is like Thor and Loki on an excursion and during a time where Thor was foolish enough to trust him. And so often that means we'll get our win, but Loki will get the seed of destruction planted in there. So that's what we're worried about. This is our inner Heimdall looking at the situation and being like, the Jews, the Israelis. Yes, that will be everything in the world, always as you look backwards and as you look forwards for now, until the clarity of an end game that is aligned with the higher force is conceived through our core intelligence, which is up to us, which is why the highest direction of conversation is as if you already have the power. I am acting like I am already the judge of the trial against the Incunabula. Bring them before me. I sit on the doom throne. Right, like, that's what I am doing. I put on this role. The helm of awe sits above me because I am putting on a public role amongst the various things I'm here to do. And perhaps that's in my blood and part of my Templar thing, maybe. I don't know. I want to find that out. Eventually I'll find that out, and I'll give you a report, which will teach you a thing or two about how you find out your thing. Mishnah. On a feast day, one must not deliver cattle, about to give birth of their young, or may be of assistance to them in any other manner. One may give a woman about to give birth to a child, all assistance possible. Even call a midwife from a distance. One may violate the Sabbath on her account and tie the navel string. There we go. Okay, here we go. They're not crazy. They are not crazy on that level. Excuse me. Arios says, one may also cut the string. Lastly, one may accomplish anything necessary for the circumcision on the Sabbath. Yeah, of course. Of course. That work must be done on the Sabbath. Gemara. What is meant by being of assistance? Said Yahuda. To hold up the young that it may not fall. And Nahman said to pull out the young by pressing the sides. Yehuda explanation is supported by the following Boretha. How is an animal assisted in giving birth to her young? By holding up the young, blowing air into its nostrils, and leading it to its mother's breast so that it may suck. Now, just remember, anything here regarding the treatment of animals is also cognate to this most sadistic of the Babylonian Talmudists, to how they treat a human being, such as the way Jeffrey Epstein was willing to treat people in the manner of literally every psychopath in every horror movie that had an infatuation with hot women, right? Like, it's amazing how all of this is his profile. Honestly, some of it I feel like is almost like a complete, like, psyop, like the low testosterone results, right? I mean, like, yeah, he's got the voice, you know, he's the Woody Allen, but I don't know, man. He looks like he looks like he's got some. I'm not saying he's strong, but I'm saying that, like, you know, if he's got like bone thin supermodels, you know, type women. He's got a lot of these kinds of women, petite women, especially young girls. I mean, you know, he can fucking wreck a fucking young woman. Right? A complete understanding of gender discrimination is necessary in order to have these trials. DEI, if we had kept DEI and all the fucking politics circumnavigating it, we would not be able to have a legal pathway for these crimes that we weren't going to take off the books. Excuse me, this thing's probably glaring my whole face out. There we go. What is meant by being of assistance? Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that. Our Simon ben Gamaliel said, when a clean animal, one that may be eaten, gave birth to her young on a festival and would not take it, we would coerce her into taking to her offspring. How would this be done? Said Abai. They would bring a handful of salt, lay it in the mother's womb, and the pain that would be caused thereby would remind the mother of her young, and she would immediately take to them, and they would pour the water discharged by the mother on the young, so that the mother would scent it and seek her young. This was done, however, only when with a clean animal, but not with I want to say that was meant to be any, and it's a typo, any unclean animal. Why so? Because usually an unclean animal will not cast off her young, and should she do so, she will never take to them. One may give a woman about to give birth to a child all assistance possible. Let us see. The Mishnah says that one may call a midwife even from a distance, and then that one may violate the Sabbath on her account. What is the object in particularization? What may be done? The Mishnah means to tell us what the rabbis taught via, if a woman lying in is in need of a light, another woman may light a candle for her, and if she needs oil, the waitress may bring her oil through public grounds in her hands. Should that not be sufficient, she may bring it in her hair, and if that does not suffice, she may bring it in a vessel. The master said, if a woman lying in is in need of a candle, another woman may light it for her. Is this not self-evident? He means to tell us that even if the woman lying in be blind, and one might say that being blind she needs no candle, hence it should not be lit, the candle should her at all events. The candle should, I want to say they meant to say should be with her at all events. So, you know, that's some funky errors right there. Probably something that came from the stress of the translation process. For she may need a thing that others could not see without a light, while by aid of the light they would find it and hand it to her. Further, it says the woman may bring her oil in her hair. This would be worse still, for the hair would have to be wrung, and that would make the woman who brought the oil guilty of wringing on Sabbath. So, okay, so the question is, because she's giving birth, is that an exception? Like, they're trying to figure out what is too much work? What is only the absolute work that is necessary for how a woman must be treated on any other day of the week as a Jew, right? So, we're a Babylonian, if you will. Rabbah and Ar Yosef both said that wringing hair does not constitute wringing within the meaning of the law. Ar Ashi said even if wringing the hair would constitute wringing within the meaning of the law, the woman should bring the oil in a vessel which should be placed on the hair or head for any work which must of a necessity be performed on a Sabbath should be performed in as far different a manner from that done on a weekday as possible. So, I guess find a way to do it that doesn't work like it's work. I guess, right? So, you know, like, ultimately what it means is be creative with the necessity you have to do. I would say, listen, it's a day off, it's not work, it's play. Well, I'm going to play midwife because it's the Sabbath and I cannot work as a midwife. So I'm going to play as a midwife. And then you do your midwife thing, but you do it different. You dance about. You wave your fingers. You make her laugh or something while she's having her contractions. The girls, they should be having a fucking good time. She's in a lot of pain. Something, right? Something. What does she need? What's the fucking beautiful universe she needs to be surrounded by to bring the child into the world? This is where I reference people to go watch Hai Lung's Anuana music video. But anyway. Yehuda said, in the name of Samuel, as long as the womb of a woman lying in is still open, whether she says she must have it done or not, the Sabbath may be violated for her. As soon, however, as the womb is closed, the Sabbath may be violated only if she says she must have it done. Otherwise, it must not be violated. So taught Mar Zutra Arashi, however, taught in the name of the preceding authority that as soon as the womb is closed, even if the woman says she must have it done, the Sabbath must not be violated on her account. All right. Yeah, you see, so it's the stress. So think about that as stress. Your fucking Talmudic doctor, which means these Hasidic communities, by the way, have their own doctor that works in a Sabbath manner under these kinds of sanitary conditions, doing these kinds of practices, right? Because there's a whole lot of this that they can preserve, and a whole and not that I want to put our government on their government, which that's the ridiculousness of it. It's of a courtesy to your neighbors that we understand your hygiene practices. And there is so much of Jewish hygiene practices in the Talmud. Okay, you got to understand how much hygiene practices are in here, how much of it is disturbing. Hygiene practices, medical treatment practices that are in here. And ask yourself, like, how much modern treatment is mixed in with this, right? Like, why is there not one question in here about, like, well, what if I go to a modern hospital? What if I have whatever and I'm in an ambulance? Why is those questions not like even these arguments seem to be locked in like I feel like these arguments are for people that are on the edge of Amish living, right? This is like pre-industrial conversation. Anyway, I mean, how many of these guys have factory jobs? You ever seen a Jew busting his ass in a factory? And I mean a Jew by, a Hasidic Jew, like these guys that maybe they're not on there's Talmudic Jews of different sorts. Jeffrey Epstein was not a Hasidic, right? He never curly cued himself and got in the dress coats and all that stuff. He was somewhere on the liberal spectrum of the Talmud, where for him, he probably got into this stuff just because he was into the Talmud as being into being Jewish. And if you are into being Jewish and not into understanding your pre-civilizational roots, right? It's just like who you were before the Anunnaki showed up is of no importance, significance, or merit. They don't want you to know that, because then you start finding out that your gods, you'll figure out whether the names of the gods of God you've been using, or the various gods, like first off, you have to be sure that all the names of those, quote, Anunnaki gods were the names of the ancestral god types. Then you have to separate where the history ends and the mythology starts. So that way you know what the fuck you're delineating in what you're fucking talking about. Which is why it's a very difficult conversation for people when you start talking about archons and anti-gods and start saying that this character and that character from your mythology is that. Which it is, because that's within its narrative structure, which isn't just a literary rhetoric tool. It's also a process of logical informational correlation meant to teach you something through the greater diaspora of mythology. But anyway. Huda said in the name of Samuel, as long as the womb of a woman lying in is still open, whether she says, hold on, did I close in the womb? I'm sorry, I read that already. Serabina to Merimar, Marzutra is more lenient in his teachings, and Arashi the stricter. According to whom does the Halakha prevail? Answered Merimar, the Halakha according to Marzutra prevails, for it is the general rule that wherever human lives are concerned, the more lenient teaching is always accepted as final. Okay, so that wherever human lives are concerned, the Goyim do not qualify as human life. Understand that. They qualify us as cattle. Understand? Okay, so they're practicing amongst themselves the way you would practice for yourself. But for the rest of us, it's Michael Bay's The Island. At what time is the womb considered to be open? Abai said. Actually, we'll get back to that. We're going to take the next break and listen to some more Lavazan Jangal. So, the first track was 1399 HS, which was the intro. Then the name of the band was the name of that first song. Now, this is called Parde Per Khan. Hang on. This, gonna go silent. Wow. The urge to cough comes like the split second I cross my arm over in one fell swoop to unmute, and so I start coughing when I unmute. The exact opposite of the polite thing to do. I'm so sorry. Anyway. Whoops. We were right over here talking about all the fuss they have to go over about childbirth on Sabbath. At what time is the womb considered to be open? Abai said, from the time the woman commences to give birth. Are they talking about, like, when it's definitely no longer contractions, and is that just the way they say crowning? Is it when we're crowning, or what? Anyway, said, from the time the woman commences to give birth. Arhuna, the son of Ahashua, said, from the time blood commences to flow. Okay. Others say, from the time that she becomes helpless and her attendants lay her on the bed. Hey, guys, this is why we have science and we measure things. We have more precise answers to these questions now in repeated medical journals that are non-controversially peer-approved. There's controversial peer approvals, and then there's non-controversials. or at least minimum controversies, because they are light years ahead of certain amounts of determinative thinking. That's pretty extraordinary that this is a part of it, and it's almost like they ought to have like a 2026 understanding of God's design update to all of their understandings of their best practices, if you will. How long is the womb considered to be open, Abai said. For 3 days after birth. Okay. And Rabbah, in the name of Ar Yehuda, said, for 7 days, and others say for 30 days. The scholars of Neherdai divide the time of a woman lying into 3 periods of 3, 7 and 30 days each. So 7 and 30 days each, not 28. Because I thought the Jews were on a 13-month, 28-day calendar. But this is operating with a 30-day system. Anyway, during the first period, whether the woman says she must have it done or whether she says it need not be done, the Sabbath may be violated for her. During the second period, if she says it must be done, the Sabbath may be violated. But if she says it need not be done, it must not be violated. So here, by the way, are aspects of the law that notice that there is nothing in the law other than what she knows already, right? One has to wonder what it is with the women. What is it with Jewish women? Right? Some, and we know that part of a woman's thing is her ability to be seen and choosing who sees them, right? I've been asking this question since I've been reading the Jewish War. What's going on with the women? Because sometimes a woman is Ghislaine Maxwell. Sometimes a woman is Oprah Winfrey. There are monstrous women in the world, right? And people have been realizing this for a long time. Hillary Clinton has been this hydra, like this head hydra kind of thing of it. Queen, it's the queen bee phenomenon, right? This is part of what we're going through. Never worry about whether they legally get away with it or not. Understand that many of them walking around free like this with losing so much is a living hell. Right? So anyway. So we're what, 3 periods of time, 30 days each during this period. It said it must be done. The Sabbath may be violated for her. During the second period, if she says it must be done, the Sabbath must be violated. But if she says it need not be done, it must not be violated. And during the third period, even if she says she must have it done, the Sabbath must not be violated by Israelites, but it may be done by Gentiles. Okay, so that's interesting that this third period is different. And that, for some odd reason, they'll let the Gentiles do it, right? There's something a little too extreme beyond what they can rationalize with any of their laws going on in this circumstance. This is according to Ar-Ula, the son of Ar-Eli, who says that everything which must be done for a sick person on the Sabbath should be done by Gentiles, and also according to Ar-Hamnuna, who said that all things which are to be done for a person who is not dangerously ill should be ordered done by a Gentile, as it happened with the daughter of Arhista, the wife of Rabbah, who took a bath in her husband's absence before the 30 days were up and caught cold, and friends were compelled to bring her, still lying in bed, to Rabbah in Pumbeditha. Said Ad Yehuda in the name of Samuel, a woman lying in should be given 30 days. For what law should she be given 30 days? The men of Neherdai said, for bathing. That is, she should not bathe for 30 days in order that she may not catch cold. Okay, well, that may only have applied perhaps in the way you lived in the time that law was preserved. But if you're not going to catch cold, then I'm pretty sure you can bathe if it's got nothing to do with the dilation of your vagina. Said Rabbah, this rule applies to women whose husbands are not at home, for when the husband is at home, he can take care of his wife and prevent any bad consequences. Okay, so you know what? I'd be lying to myself if I didn't agree with that last sentence. Just because I think that there's a lot of natural blind spots that men have and that women have, but those aren't blind spots for the other. And so that's just natural. And they might, I don't know if they're trying to knock women or that anything in their doctrine. Well, holy shit, yeah. Yes, we all know there's actually, well, yes, there's a knock on them, but this isolated statement, that is a natural universal truth. Don't let it get poisoned by everything connected to it here. Ar Yehuda in the name of Samuel said again, one may kindle a fire for a woman lying in on the Sabbath, and not only for a woman lying in, but also for a sick person, not only in the winter, but also in the summertime. As Arhaya bar Abin said in the name of Samuel, that one who was bled and caught cold may have a fire made for him on Sabbath, not only in the winter, but also in the summertime. Samuel once was bled and caught cold, so a chair made of elm wood was chopped up and a fire made for him on Sabbath. The same thing happened to Ar Yehuda, so a table of cedar wood was chopped up and a fire made for him. Rabbah had the same experience, and a stool was used to make a fire. And when told by Abai that he was guilty of destroying a useful article, said, my personal welfare is dearer to me than the article. Said Ar Yehuda in the name of Rab, a man should sell even the roof of his house and buy shoes for himself, if in need of them. But if he had recently been bled and feels hungry, he should sell even these shoes and buy food with the proceeds. What kind of food should he purchase? Rab said meat, and Samuel wine. Rab said meat as being a substitute for flesh lost through bleeding, and Samuel said red wine as a substitute for red blood. When Samuel had himself bled, a dish made of milt was prepared for him. Did they mean milk? I'm not going to look that up, but if milt is a thing, it's a thing. And Ar Yohanan would drink wine until it would be smelt through his ears. All right, so we got raging drunk. So Ar-Naaman would drink wine until his spleen would float in wine. Ar-Yosef would drink wine until his veins would swell so that the lancet would be forced out, and Rabba would drink only wine that was 3 years old. All right, so when they say that, do they mean every fucking week they get this drunk? Is getting drunk necessary, or are these just habits that they're fucking good with? So what the fuck? Right? So anyway, said Ar-Naaman bought Itzyak to his disciples, I beg of you that on the day on which you have yourselves bled, you should go home and say that Naaman will come to visit you. In consequence, a good meal and wine will be prepared. You can partake of it. Deceit is not permitted under any circumstances, but those mentioned as follows. Deceit except for these mentioned? So these are deceits that they can do. Let's one who has bled and has not the money to buy wine should take a mutilated zuz and go to 7 wine dealers. When asking for wine, he will be given some to taste, and when offering his money, it will be rejected. He will then proceed to another dealer and keep on until he will have drunk a quarter of a lug. One who cannot even do this should eat at least 7 black dates and should put oil on his temples, then lie down in the sun and go to sleep. What? What a weird Weasley little fucking thing to do. It's like run around with broken money, like me having a torn up, delegalized piece of torn up tender, like a shredded $1 bill, and buying a drink for $1, giving him a $1 bill because it's all you got. And then he's like, no. He's just like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then leave. And then do that 6 more fucking times and get drunk that way. Which is innocent enough, I suppose. I mean, like, that is so minute on the trickster scale. Like, that's something that I think Odin would do. But anyway, depending on the circumstances, he's an honorable trickster. Ablat. Ooh, look at this. Wow, look at this. Mentioning Persians. Great. A Persian official found Samuel sleeping in the sun and said to him, Thou, leader of Jews, can a good thing emanate from a bad one? Samuel answered, This is my bleeding day. In reality, this was not so, but there are days when sleeping in the sun is healthy. For instance, on the day when the Tammuz, July, equinox falls. But Samuel, who was a physician, should not tell this to Ablat. Rab and Samuel both said, The man who eats a light meal on the day when he is bled has light earnings decreed for him in heaven for the following year, because if he himself has no pity for his own body, he is not worthy of being pitied by the heavenly host. Okay. So this is my bleeding day. Let me double check my understanding here. The Talmud bleeding day. Explain this to me in a more succinct manner. Because why does a man have a bleeding day unless it's because it happens to be that he's injured? right? Talmudic law regarding bleeding and menstruation are deeply rooted in Jewish tradition, are codified in the Shulchan Aruch. The laws of Nida, or menstrual impurity, are a significant aspect of Jewish ritual purity and are discussed in the context of the laws of him that hath an issue. Leviticus 15:19-32. The laws include the prohibition against the sexual intercourse with a menstruating woman, which is considered ritually impure, for 7 days. This prohibition is part of a broader set of laws aimed at preserving the purity of the sanctuary and its precincts. The laws also include the requirements for a detailed ritual purification process, necessity of observing certain days and times for bleeding. Well, how does this happen with dudes, though? Talmudic laws are complex, require careful, different rabbinical. All right. Talmudic bleeding day for men. What does this mean? Specific particular day of the week for bloodletting for men. However, it does provide guidelines for timing and conditions under which bloodletting may be performed. Okay, so bloodletting. So if he's like, that's like the ancient medieval practice of draining blood out to handle some sort of blood disease. These guidelines are based on the belief that bloodletting is a method of healing and purification, and it is performed in accordance with the rules set forth in the Talmud. Okay, yeah. So he's bloodletting. Talmud. Why and when do men bloodlet? Yes. Talmud provides specific guidelines for bloodletting. Men are advised to let blood every 30 days with variations based on the individual age and health. Oh. So are the Jews are bloodletting every month? And this is like a male period. This is like an equivalency to a male period, but it's based on self-infliction. It's not really scarification ritual. The point is not to leave a scar, but I mean it's a bloodletting. Okay. Sure. That makes sense. The same two authorities also said that one who was bled should not sit where the wind blows, for it may be that the surgeon who bled him allowed too much blood to escape, and the wind might force still more blood from him, and thus become dangerous. Just do the bloodletting inside and close the doors and windows and turn off the fans and the air conditioners and any heat blowers. And don't move around any flappy clothing and drapes and things. You'll be fine. Just be in a place with still air. Anyway, Samuel was always bled in a house, the walls of which were of 7 bricks thickness. 7 bricks? You don't need 7 bricks to fucking block the wind. And at one time, it happened that he felt weak. He looked up and noticed that a brick was missing from the wall. You still got 6 layers. 1 layer with proper mortar is enough. Especially if you've put a fucking sealant over it. Rabban Samuel also said that a man who was bled should not go out into the street without having partaken of something. If he does and meets a corpse, his face turns yellow. And if he should happen to meet a murderer, he will die himself. And if he meets a pig, he will become scabby. Well, it's a good thing these guys live, like, in a place and time where you're not just going to see a corpse on the street unless there was, like, you know, the unfortunate stabbings that happen in violent neighborhoods, but usually we're not getting to too much death escalation, and not right where you guys are going to have a personal encounter with the corpse. And nobody's interested in having a, what was it, a Stand By Me moment, one would say? Was it Stand By Me? Where they do the Stephen King novel. They take the train tracks to go see a dead body, and you know, the guts of that story is a really cool story, if I'm thinking of the right one. They also said that after bleeding, a man should not rise immediately, but should rest a while and then get up. For the master said that 5 things are more conducive to death than to life. They are eating and arising immediately, drinking and arising, sleeping and arising, being bled and arising, and having sexual intercourse and arising immediately afterwards. Yeah, I want to lay down and smoke a cigarette, right? Anywho. All right, we're going to take a break right here. Our next song is called Total Virgin Soul Rape. I guess this one goes out to the Ayatollah. I left the screen up while I while I did all that. You know what? we're going to give them a twofer. That was a little too short for me. So, here we go. there we go. I hope I was playing that properly. Give me a second here. I feel like I gave you guys the double audio treatment that whole time. Did I hit the mute button? I don't even remember now. I'm just on autopilot trying to focus. Yeah, that all sounds fine. All right, that's good. I didn't screw up. I'm just trying to keep the magic together. Samuel said again, the 4th day of the week, if falling on the 4th, 14th, or 24th day of the month, or if it is a Wednesday, after which there are less than 4 days to the end of the month, is a dangerous day for bleeding. Bleeding on the 1st and 2nd of every month produces weakness, and on the 3rd day it is dangerous. Bleeding on the eve of any biblical festival produces weakness. On the eve of Pentecost it is dangerous. In consequence of which the rabbis instituted the precautionary measure that no man should be bled on the eve of a festival, and for fear that he might have it done on the eve of Pentecost. Dude, why does nobody talk about this? Right? Like, why does nobody, like, where is the bloodletting, like, scene? Right? Like, you know, these guys are not keen on shorts and t-shirts. So you're not seeing their arms. You're not seeing any wrappings of bandages under their arms, right? You don't know, right? They could have been bleeding out just recently, healing up. In fact, they might even have just like a fucking designated area, so it's a big nasty scar that they always heal. I'm going to keep on reading, but if I don't get an answer by the time I think they're done with this subject, I'm going to look up what they do with all the blood. Because I'd imagine the vampires are very interested in this. And this is probably a grift of the fucking vampires. I've never heard of this is a perfect fucking grift. Because at the very least, this can be feeding etheric vampires. We'll see. I just want to know if they address where the blood goes. Because they must. Because you have to clean up blood, and cleaning up something is work. So they must address it, right? Again, Samuel said, one who had eaten heartily of wheaten food is not wholly benefited by being bled, but is simply cased for the time being. This means to say, then, that one who has a heavy feeling can ease himself temporarily by being bled after a meal, but is not permanently benefited thereby. After being bled, one may drink immediately, but should not eat until the time in which he could walk half a mile had lapsed. I guess. I mean, last time I gave blood, nobody gave me an eating restriction, and in fact, somebody gave me like a sugar-free cookie or something. Anyway, on a day when nothing profitable had been performed, Rab used to proclaim the following simile. If one bled 100 persons, he earned a zuz for each. If he cut the hair of 100 persons, he earned a zuz for each. But if he trimmed the mustaches of 100 men, he labored in vain. There was no charge made for trimming mustaches when done in conjunction with hair cutting or bleeding, said Ar Yosef. We learned at the college of Arhuna that a day on which the disciples did not study was called a mustache day, and I did not understand the meaning of the term, but when I can see the significance of the expression, for it means to say that the day was lost, and tie the navel string, the rabbis taught. One may tie the navel string, and Arios said one may cut it also on the Sabbath and deposit the afterbirth, which is supposed to be a remedy to keep the child warm. When Simon ben Gamaliel said daughters of the kings would deposit the afterbirth in a bowl of oil, and rich men's daughters would deposit it in carded wool. Poor people would deposit it in feathers? Said Ar-Nahaman in the name of Rab bar Abuha, quoting Rab, the halakha according to Aryos prevails. Ar-Nahman said again, quoting the same authorities, the rabbis agree with Aryos that when two children were born, both attached to one navel string, the latter may be cut because otherwise it would be dangerous. He also said again that the name of the same authorities also that is contained in the sermon of Ezekiel may be done for a woman lying in on Sabbath, as it is written, Ezekiel 16:4, and as for thy birth, on the day thou wast born, thy navel was not cut, nor wast thou washed on water to be cleansed, and thou wast not rubbed with salt, nor wrapped in swaddling clothes. And as for thy birth, from this we may infer that one may assist in the birth of a child on Sabbath. Thy navel was not cut, from this we infer that the navel may be cut on Sabbath. Nor wast thou washed in water to be cleansed. This teaches us that the child may be washed on Sabbath. Thou was not rubbed with salt. From this we know that a child may be rubbed with salt on Sabbath, nor wrapped in swaddling clothes. This teaches us that we may wrap a child in clothes on the Sabbath. Cool. Okay, so we made it to the end of this chapter, and it's 9:20. So let me double check on the length of this chapter, because we're going to keep going. It's very early. And I just want to get an idea of this chapter's expanse. All right, it's a pretty long one. It goes down to 281, and we're at 265. So this is a good 15, 16-page chapter. It's about a third larger than this chapter that we've been going over. Don't mind me while I clear my nasal passages. Okay. So, here's what we're going to do for a few minutes. I want to go look up. All right. Okay. Babylonian Talmud. Let's see. Human liquid handling on what? Okay, Babylonian Talmud. No. Blood and afterbirth. Handling. Thank you. There we go. That should do it. Ay caramba. That's just not considering AI phrasing it that way. Okay. Let's see. So, okay. This study explores how cultural differences, variances, and representative women and sources of authoritative medical knowledge of Sasanian Persia and Roman Palestine contributed to the formation of these texts with markedly different understanding of the relationship between. Okay, that's interesting. It's giving a very odd. These are very odd results. Medieval commentary on the tractate Rosh Hashanah. The Bell. Okay. All right, I probably gave it a very confusing question. All right. All right, Babylonian Talmud. Oh, no. Human blood. How does one phrase this question, you see? What? How do I understand the quest I am on? You see, I'm allegedly a Templar, so here I am all questing. My digital crusade. Alright, Babylonian Talmud, human blood, human blood, yeah, handling. Right? According to Talmud, bloodletting is one of the things applied in moderation and practice. The amount of blood varies with the subject. Alright. Alright, so it should be according to what they're doing here then. So let's take a look. How do you see this on my screen? You don't see shit on my screen. I apologize. Alright. Get rid of this little thing here. What is this? This is like an ad. Alright, ignore that. Alright. So this is from the Jewish Virtual Library. Bloodletting, removal of blood in treating disease. Let me make sure. Sorry. Yeah, okay, we're good. Bloodletting is frequently mentioned in the Talmud. It was performed not by a physician, but by a skilled functionary called Unmin or Gera, whose status was less than that of a physician. The bloodletter is mentioned in various passages in the Talmud, both favorably and unfavorably. E.g. Ta'an 21b, Kid 82a. Some of the directives about bloodletting in the Talmud relate to specific ailments. E.g. Git. Alright, I'm not going to go through all these citations, but most are in the realm of preventative medicine based on the belief that the regular removal of blood from the body was a hygienic value. Among the 10 indispensable requirements of a town, in the absence of which no scholar should reside there, is a bloodletter. According to the Talmud, bloodletting is one of the things which should be applied in moderation. And in practice, the amount of blood to be let varies with subject's age. Memonides, though in general, agreement suggests, in addition, considering of the subject's blood richness and physical vigor, many instructions are given in the Talmud with respect to diet and precautions to be taken both before and after bloodletting. Memonides advises moderation in bloodletting. A man should not accustom himself to let blood regularly. The Talmud's saying fucking every 30 days, dude. Nor should he do so unless he is in great need of it. The view of the Talmud and the Maimonides provides a sharp contrast to those of the ancient medieval world where the practice of bloodletting was unrestricted. In late Hebrew literature, directions for bloodletting and cupping are also found. Okay. Great. Babylonian Talmud. Okay. What is done with blood? Yeah, what is done with blood? All right. Talmud contains various directed practices regarding the handling of blood, particularly in context of ritual purity, dietary laws. Okay. Talmud teaches that the graves of Gentiles do not impart ritual impurity, which is a significant aspect of its medieval and ethical considerations. Bloodletting, mentioned Talmud, with directives that vary based on individual age and health, is considered preventative measure. Dietary laws, medicinal remedies. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Blood disposal. Guidelines for blood disposal, emphasizing the importance of moderation, need for extremeness. It's taught that bloodletting should... It just goes back to bloodletting. Let's see. My Jewish learning. What does it say here? It's a good reason sometimes I didn't go to medical school, as reminds me considered the warning for the squeamish. Blooding of this ancient health practice dates back, or it is unpleasant. It's to us clear it was a trial for the ancients to all kinds of methods of recovering this from odious procedures. Drinking to excess wasn't the only way of dealing with the traumatic medical procedure. Today's page. Okay, so the drinking has something to do with dealing with the bloodletting, and that's why those guys are drinking so much. And finding a position in their Sabbatean procedure to drink sufficiently for the bloodletting to be dealable. So I forget if they said how much blood was involved. Purpose is almost a terrible idea. All right, so examining, re-examining to be true. So what do they do with the blood? Does it just go down the drain? Isn't it interesting that none of these things go into that explanation yet? All right, we're going to take a break here. And listen to the next song. And then after the break, we're going to get into the next chapter. So the follow-up track to that Total Virgin Soul Rape was Yazda. And now we're going to listen to... Is that F-I? It's F-I. I don't know what that means. This is a little bit of the end of the last song right
تقدیر که میرسد پاییز پاییز بهار تقدیر است
Yeah, those guys got something. They got something interesting going on over there with how they got their songs connected, and it's really really good. It's like really good, like old school black metal style production, and knowing their the economy, they and everything else about their country. You know, get this kind of shit done is quite a miracle. So anyway. Chapter 19. Regulations ordained by Eleazar concerning the circumcision on the Sabbath. Mishnah. Eleazar saith, if the knife used for circumcision was not brought on the day preceding the Sabbath, one is to bring it publicly on the Sabbath. In times of danger during persecutions, one may conceal it about the person before witnesses. Further, Eleazar saith, one may even cut wood to be burnt into charcoal in order to forge an iron instrument, knife for circumcision. The following rule was laid down by Akiba: all work necessary in aid of circumcision, which could have been performed on the day before Sabbath, does not supersede the observance of the Sabbath. But such works as could not have been performed on the day before does supersede the observance of the Sabbath. A question was produced by the schoolmen. What does Eleazar mean by saying one is to bring it publicly to the Sabbath? Does she mean to say that the man is that the proper pronoun? Is Eleazar a woman? Who is Eleazar in the Talmud? Okay. Babylonian Talmud Eleazar. Let's see. Talmud. Who is Eleazar? Significant figure in Babylon, specifically known as Eleazar ben Pedat. He was a prominent Talmudist from Babylon who lived in the 3rd century and served as the headmaster of the Talmudic Academy at Tiberias, where he was highly esteemed and regarded as the legal authority of the land of Israel. Eleazar was known for his profound scholarship and his role in the early Jewish community. Right, okay. Notice how the world never fucking looks at the Babylon to Israel connection like this. Right? Nobody tells you about all this, and this is the real stuff behind it all. And none of it's hidden, it's just being dismissed. That's all it is, it's just being dismissed. Deliberately, just dissed in general. Distanced, disrespected, distanced, disparaged. Anything to separate it from any credible angle of your mind. All right. So that's a typo. Does he mean to say that the man thereby demonstrates how dear a commandment of the Lord is to him, that he is ready to violate the Sabbath for its sake, or is it rather because the man would be suspected of carrying a prohibited thing, oil, the Sabbath, if he did so surreptitiously? What difference does it make what Eleazar meant? The difference is this. If the man does it in order to allay suspicion, it would be sufficient to have 2 witnesses see him conceal the knife about his person and then carry it even in times of peace. But if the man does it in order to demonstrate his love of God's commandments, he must carry it publicly even if he have 2 witnesses. What is the conclusion? It was taught that our Levi said that our Eleazar meant only for the man to demonstrate his veneration of God's commandments. This is supported by a Boretha, which plainly states that a man should carry it publicly and not have it concealed. Such are the words of our Eleazar. Said Ar-Ashi, all this is unnecessary. Our Mishnah plainly teaches us the same. For it says that only in times of danger the knife should be concealed. And it is easily understood that only in times of danger is this to be done, but not under ordinary circumstances. And for what purpose? Only to show that a commandment should be venerated. It follows therefrom that the argument is accepted. Right there is precedent for your open carry versus concealed carry permit. And how do you feel about those ideas? That under ordinary times you are open carry, under hostile times you are under concealed carry. Now the problem is, you run around with your right to an open carried gun. A cop is going to want to get ahead of things because permits are a thing, and therefore, if permits are a thing, an open carry means you are susceptible to a police officer's intentions. And the only reason why you have a concealed carry permit is so you don't get in trouble just because a cop got nosy, because permits exist. And that permit in that cop's mind is superseding the right, because we decided that not only do we have a right to guns, but then it was also us who made that decision that you have a right to guns. Because listen, yes, the decision says God, but it was people that said that God gives you that right. And therefore, it's still a law of a person's interpretation. And therefore, at the end of the day, the government is just that one man with the authority bestowed by him by the government. That's your government in your face. There in one person, limited in his understanding of the law, a bot of process and procedure who only understands how to entrap you in your own words and behaviors for profit that he doesn't get to see. We have learned in another Boretha, one is to bring it publicly and not have it concealed. Such are the words of Ar Eliezer and Ar Yehuda, said in the name of Ar Eliezer, that in times of danger the custom was to conceal it about the person before 2 witnesses. Further saith Ar Eliezer, etc. The rabbis taught in the place where Ar Eliezer resided, wood was cut and burnt into charcoal in order to forge an instrument, knife, for circumcision on Sabbath. In the place where Arios of Galilee lived, fowls were eaten with milk. Ar Itzhak said, there was a city in Palestine where Ar Eliezer's teachings was carried out, and there were no premature deaths in that city. And not only this, but at one time, when the government prohibited circumcision in the entire land, that city was not included in the decree. I would like 1 check, please, for that city. Anyway, we have learned in a Boretha, Simon ben Gamaliel said, every commandment of the Lord, which was received by the children of Israel with joy, for instance, circumcision, concerning which It is written in Psalm CXIX 162, I am rejoiced over thy promise, as one that findeth great spoil is even now observed with joy, but every commandment which was received with protest, for instance, the law of incestuous marriages, concerning which it is written in Numbers 11:10, and Moses heard people weep according to their families, meaning the case of intermarriage among the families is even now observed reluctantly, for there are no marriages celebrated without some discord among the families. But this... So wait a minute. This psalm is doing the job, right? I am rejoiced over the promise one findeth, like, observed. So they're just saying, I don't think that has got anything to do with the circumcision, though, right? Like, he's saying it has to do with the circumcision because he is saying every commandment of the Lord which was received by the children of Israel with joy. For instance, concerning circumcision, which it is written. All right. So hold on. All right. So let me get... Copy. CXIX, which is... Nothing is just going to throw me the Roman numeral number. Ugh, come on. Okay, 119. Thank you. Didn't open up my ISA. Hang on. All right, Old Testament. Psalms 116. What was it? 116 what? 116, 162. Were there 162 verses in that? Are there really 162? .16 and then verse... Where's verse 160? No. Hang on. Sorry. Let me open this up. Ugh. Wrong button. There we go. All right. Psalm 116. But that only goes up to verse 19. You see that's something's wrong. It can't go... What is one... It can't be 162. That's gotta be a typo. All right, let me go to... Let me go to 16. Oh, Yahweh, say, I am your servant. I am your servant, son of your maidservant. You have opened up my bonds. I shall sacrifice to you a sacrifice of acclamation and call on the name of Yahweh. I shall pay my vows to Yahweh straight in front of all his people in the courts of Yahweh's house in your midst, Jerusalem. Praise Yah. All right, let's just going through the praises, and then that goes up to 19. I love him because Yahweh has heard my voice, my supplications. Cables of death envelop me, and the constrictions of the unseen, they have converged upon me. I found distress and affliction, and I called on the name of Yahweh. Oh, Yahweh, do you make my escape from my soul? I don't see this having anything to do with it. Oh, wait a minute. I'm in 116. I am sorry. Ugh. 119? Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. Jeez. I elated over your promise like one finding much loot. 119. 162. My heart stands. I hate what is false. I abhor what is love. 7 times a day praise your righteous ordinances. Stumbling. Let's go back here. Some of the word of your word, the truth, all your righteous ordinances. Ionians, you may persecute me graciously. Hearts and stands. Where's circumcision in here? Compassion. Do not contend my cause and redeem. Let me see. I haven't done a search in a while. Let's see. Well, there isn't... The word circumcision doesn't show up in Psalms at all. But actually, it's very weird where it does show up. Why is this showing up? Wait a minute. Oh, no. This is the New Testament. Why did it go to the New Testament? I'm trying to do an Old Testament search. Concordant literal. Circumcise? Maybe that makes a big difference. Okay, circumcise is in Deuteronomy, Josiah, Joshua. It's mentioned twice in Deuteronomy, once in Joshua. So, okay, I want to read these now. Hence you will circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and you should no longer stiffen your neck. The fuck? What? Let me see here. What is that coming from? To observe instructions of Elohim, your Elohim, and his statutes that I am enjoining on you today for your good. Behold, to Yahweh your Elohim belong the heavens and the heavens of the heavens, the earth and all that is in it. That is interesting that there are heavens and the heavens of the heavens. Which that sounds like it's part of the arrogance programming of the Atonists, where Yahweh is not just like the God of gods, but he is more akin to the higher force, more akin to the Jinn region or the Brahman, if you will, right? But Yahweh was attached to your fathers to love them, so that he chooses their seed after them, you out of all the people, as it is this day. Okay, so this is the deal with circumcision right here anyway. But Yahweh was attached to your fathers to love them. Okay, let me get the fucking... In fathers of you... The Aub, father in a literal and immediate or figurative and remote application. Compare name in Abi. Okay. He was attached. So the Aub, Shashak, Kashak, the Kashyks. To cling, join, to love, delight in elliptically, or by interchangeably to deliver. Yahweh, to the love, which is Auhab, or Raheb, which is rehab, with the vowels reversed. A primitive root, to have affection for, sexually or otherwise. See, there's the double entendre of this relationship. Do you see the predatory relationship of this God with its people? Alf-em, to love them, to outh them. You see, there's something in, like, all right, there's a problem, this outh. If you, like, I'm always talking about this. This is some common word in the Hebrew scripture that has this notation with this little kind of like double arrow thing. That is because there's a transliteration problem. They don't. It's almost like it's like a symbol that has no meaning or pronunciation, and so this outh is kind of in there as a substitute. Because the M, I believe, is the them, and the outh is this part. So the eth, a parent contracted in the demonstrative sense of entity, properly self, but generally used to point out more definitively the object of a verb or preposition, even or namely. As such, unrepresented in English, according to the King James Version. Okay? So, to love Altham, and he is choosing in seed of them. Seed, figuratively, fruit, plant, sowing, time, posterity. Like, yeah, like, this is exactly what it sounds like. This is your human farming breeding program. This is the breeding master's relationship with his breeding stock. After them, in you, from all the peoples, as the day, this. So, and you circumcise the foreskin of Alf. So, this is called to mual, to cut short, i.e. curtail, right? So you will cut short and so circumcising or mooling which looks more in the phonetics here as Motham. So there's a, or Mytham. There's a TH that's then turned into an Ul. In fact, there's no, okay, it could be Multhum, but there's a THM there that they're not addressing. So probably because it's the ML, which is like the root word, which is fine, but it's still kind of not giving you the thing. All right. But you see, it's the heart of you. This is in the context of the circumcision. Isn't that fucking disturbing as fuck? All right? Lebab. Lebob. That sounds like labia to me. This isn't just about men. The heart as the most interior organ used also like. To bethink themselves, breast comfortably, courage, faint, tender heart. Right. The Bach saga talks about this as the atrocity that it is. And it talks about that confusion of the word heart and what a heart really is versus the pump. Even though it's not a pump, the way we use the word pump, the original word for pump was what the heart does. What pumps do is not accurate to what a pump is, because the original pump is in reference to what is happening with the center of the heart and its circulatory system function. Right? So our language is a bit screwed up like that, right? But because pumps should not be called pumps, because they don't pump in the sense that we have defined the word pump, as opposed to how pump is originally defined. And that's just about the word. I'm not arguing about the science going on in the body and the science going on in the system in our our aquatic delivery system. I'm talking about the way the meaning has changed and the occult motivation for the changing in making you not realize what has been done to you, or have you not realized what is being done to other people. And then this knowledge allows you to make wiser decisions for yourself, possibly also save other people from other foolish decisions, and hopefully what will be a path of enlightenment for them down the road. One can only hope. So let me see where he continues to explain his relationship. And oh yeah, and you should no longer stiffen your neck. So, and nape of you, which is called the oref, the nape or back of the neck as declining, hence the back generally. Okay? Okay, the back, the neck, stiff. All right. Circumcise, and nape of you not you shall stiffen. Properly, to be dense, tough, or severe. Be cruel, be fierce, make grievous. Be in, have, seem, would, harden. Be sore, make stiffen. This is about making men soft, right? This is about the demonization of the penis. Right? This is part of the gynocracy's ideas about where the cruelty of men come from. This would be something within the secrets of the women of their kind. And so they are upholding this by this merit, and it is designed to rob you of your posture, your strength, your dignity, your integrity, your courage, your nerves. Cliff High is not wrong about the circumcision and the Vimana technology. He is not wrong at all. He is right about that. I can feel it. For Yahweh, your Elohim, he is the Elohim of Elohim and the Lord of Lords, and El, the great, the masterful, and the fear-inspiring one, who neither shows partiality nor takes a bribe. Right? So it's just like, this is being like, basically, the standard of all things that cannot be wrong is me. Now, As a Saturnian entity in your station, sure. However, okay, let's take a look here at this one. That Yahweh Elohim of you, he Elohim of the Elohim. And Lord of, there's Adonai, which gets to Adonai. U Adni e Adnims, Lord of Lords. So Adnim is the plural of Adonai. So there's not one Adonai either. There's other lords, there's other archons, and there are other gods. There are other Elohim. Because the Elohim is an expression of the Trinity, that statement would not be using the word Elohim. Lord of Lords, E-Al, the El, E-Gedel, the Great. The Great El, right? E-Geber, the Masterful. So hold on a second. It's using the with the E, and then it's saying Geber. Okay, so yeah, the El, the Great, the Masterful. I'm kind of, this one kind of, what does this mean? Gebauer, the Gibber. Intense from the same as powerful, by implication warrior, tyrant, champion, chief, XL, giant man, mighty man. Okay, yeah, it's like, you know, I'm big boss motherfucker. That's what it's just saying, right? The masterful and the being feared, the Uinura. But it says Uinura, but it says Yare here. Something very fishy about these pronunciation differences, right? To fear morally, to revere, cause to frighten. All right. Who not he is lifting faces and not he is taking bribes. Okay, so not he is taking and not faces he is taking. Okay. The panim, plural, but always a singular of an unused noun. Pana. The face as the part that turns, used in a great variety of applications, literally and figuratively, also with prepositions as a preposition before, etc. Accept bribes, accept anger, employ, endure, right, yeah, okay. So overall chicanery. The one enacting customary rights, orphan, widow, loving. You will love the sojourner, for you became sojourners in the land of Egypt. Right, yeah. Well, your Elohim shall you fear, and him you shall serve. Okay, all right, yep. So then what's this other one on circumcision? Yahweh your Elohim will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed, so as to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may stay alive. Yeah, because the heart is the head of the penis, and the organ in your chest is the pumpa. So this is correct. We understand it as allegory, but in root language, heart is correct. You're circumcising the heart. And the emotional aspect of what that means is still true. Okay. All right, that's good for this segment. Let's go into a break, and we will continue to read afterwards. Where are we at here? Oops. Our next song is called Bisuyamarg. Okay, so my bad. That was actually that song was called Coon. I was a little off on the time marker. B Suyag is gonna be for the last break. All right, and I went well over time on that one. Usually, I don't like to go more than about 5 or 6 minutes over the hour or the half hour. Anyway. So I just went over in the last break the issue with all of these psalms, and then I went into a little bit more about circumcision stuff, and we did and I exposed the issue where the Bach Saga is 100% correct about the root language and the monstrous practice of circumcision. And that's not a pagan practice. It's actually an anti-pagan practice. Because our predecessors did none of that whatsoever. None of that was part of the pre-Anunnakian system. All right. let's see, discord among the family. Okay, so I think I actually read through that whole passage. We're just going to move on. We have learned that Ar Simon ben Elazar said, every commandment for the observance of which the Israelites were ready to lay down their lives as for that prohibiting idolatry and commanding circumcision is observed punctually even to this day. But such commandments as they would not sacrifice themselves for are even now lightly regarded, as is the case with the commandment concerning tefillin. As Aryanai said, tefillin require a clean body, such as Elisha, the man of doves, possessed. What is meant by a clean body? Abai said, a body that emits no odor when clothed with tefillin. And Rabbah said, a body that will never become drowsy while wearing tefillin. While Elisha called the man of wings. It once happened that the government promulgated a decree by which all Israelites would use tefillin, or phylacteries, were to be decapitated. Thus Elisha donned his phylacteries and went out into market. He was seen by a quaestor, a quester? And the latter pursued him. Seeing that he could not escape, Elisha took the phylacteries from his head and carried them in his hand. When questioned by the quaestor what he carried in his hand, he replied, wings of doves. When opening his hand, he really found dove's wings, and was therefore called the man of wings ever afterwards. This is interesting, and it's spelled with the AE, the hermaphroditic AE system. And this castor, this quaestor, it's like a quasar, a castor, but a quester as well. It's a quester, a castor, a quasar. Copy. Etymology. Paste. Let me see. All right, before I go to any of those answers, let me go to etymonline.com. Let's see if they have it first. Not in Etymonline. All right. All right. Let's go with the AI assistant answer first. The quaestor originates from the Latin word querere, meaning to inquire. Ah, okay. So this bad boy, they don't have a word in Hebrew or whatever language for this one. It was used in ancient Rome to refer to a public official responsible for financial administration and auditing. The position was lowest on the cursus honorum, and its duties evolved over time, initially involving judicial functions and later focusing on financial oversight. The term has roots in the original investigative function of the quaestors parricidae, who were tasked with investigating capital crimes. Okay, I have a feeling that we're talking about the Inquisition and the Inquisitors. I think that this is what you're supposed to spell the Inquisitor as. I think that the occult version of the Inquisitor is in and then quaestor, the inquaestor. Or the inic quaestor, perhaps. Let us see. Let's see what the elitists at Oxford have to say about this. Thank you for saying Oxford Dictionary. View our subscription option. Just you don't have a free version? Boo. Roman history, law, parliament, all right. Law of Middle English. All right, I guess it would be Roman history. Nope, doesn't want to cough it up unless I cough it money. Not giving the ox my money. Let's see what the World History Encyclopedia has to say. The one who asks questions. Was the oldest and lowest office on the cursus honorum, or path of honor, in ancient Rome, considered a stepping stone to higher office in the Roman government. Ah, okay. So being an investigator, this is like, if you're an investigator, this is how you went up, right? Think about this like, this is like you're a journalist, you're a private detective. You're in the cursus honorum in Rome, if that's what you are. The duties of the quaestor ranged from administrating public properties and overseeing treasuries to collecting taxes and recruiting in provinces, among other tasks. Like all of the other magistrates, the quaestor was unpaid, leaving entry to the position to only those few with an alternate source of income. However, it still serves as a gateway for many young Romans who wished for a life in politics. Okay, so you see, that whole order was also kind of gate-kept. Like, you couldn't make money. So were you not allowed to make your own money? Like, it's like, I would be fine being a part of anything as long as, like, wouldn't you want to just get hired by somebody to make the money, right? Or you're going to be, or that was the deal. This institution exists. If you're going to be a part of it, you got an obligation to do it for free, and you better have a way of life to make money otherwise. Interesting questions. Okay, so, however, it still serves as a gateway for many young Romans wished for a life in politics. Although originally flexible, the latter was codified by the Lex Aemilia Annalis of 180 BCE, which established the minimum age for entry into each office. The code would be later confirmed by the Roman commander and dictator Sulla around 82 BCE. The quaestor, or quaestores parricidae, first existed under the rule of kings and was granted judicial power prosecuting murder cases and serving as a police inspector. The position continued to exist to some extent in the Roman Republic, but gradually faded out by the 2nd century BCE. So this is proto-cops, proto-city guard kind of shit. During the time of the Roman Republic, few new offices were introduced. The aedile supervised the markets. The censor registered citizens and soldiers. The praetor served as a judicial official and secondary military commander. And lastly, the quaestor administered public properties and treasuries. Interesting. So the quaestor got sectionalized in a classification process with these other two. But here you have a trifecta. The aedile handles the markets, the censor registers the citizens, the praetor serves as the judicial office, second military. Okay, I see this, I think this could be related. This could be related to one of the demonic trinities that is in system today, passed down from Babylon to Rome to the American corporate empire, which is, okay, so the markets would be Mammon, aedile. Mammon would lurk within aedile. The censor would lurk within Belial. The registration of citizens and soldiers. There would be a lot of lies you'd be telling people to earn their trust into being involved in registry and all the citizenship participations and things like that, right? The praetor served as a judicial official and second military commander, and Moloch would be within the praetor, and praetor's even got predator in it, right? Because this is the enforcer arm, the brutalists. But this quaestor thing, then, is a fourth. Right? This is the Inquisition. So properties and treasuries is different than markets, because that's more like asset-oriented stuff, where markets is more like you got stationary assets. That would be public properties and treasuries, and then you've got fluid assets, which be things in the market. Okay, so I think that's a good basic breakdown on these guys. Things have been quiet in the chat room, so I don't know the registration of citizen, so I don't know if I'm missing anything. Last thing I see in here was my own post for the link to the band we've been listening to. I'm going to make my mic a pinch hotter. I think this mic level is pretty good. I'm going to bring it up a hair. I got to keep the speakers down to have the microphones this hot. We're good. Okay. Seeing that he could not escape, Elisha took the phylacteries from his head. Wait, did I read it? Yeah, wings after. Okay, so Ar-Eba, the son of Ar-Ada, said in the name of Ar-Itzhak, it once happened that having forgotten to bring the knife for circumcision on the day before Sabbath, a man brought it on Sabbath by way of the roof and private ground against the will of Ar-Elazar. Ar-Yosef opposed this. How canst thou say that this occurred against the will of Ar-Elazar? It was Ar-Elazar himself who permitted bringing the knife on Sabbath. Thou wouldst infer, then, that bringing the knife by way of private ground and not publicly was against his will, because he insists that the knife should be brought publicly through public ground only in accordance with whose will was it done. If thou will say it was done in accordance with the decree of the rabbis, who permits bringing the knife through public ground and permits it through private ground and roofs? Did the rabbis indeed permit this? Have we not learned in Aboretha that in the same measure as it is not allowed to bring the knife through the public ground, it must also not be brought through the roofs and private ground? Therefore, Ar-Ashi supplemented the statement of Ar-Eba by adding that the knife was brought against the will of Ar-Elazar and his opponents, but in accordance with the decree of Ar-Simon, who permits the carrying of everything through private ground and roofs, even if they were not combined by an erub in tract erubim. Okay, hang on 1 second. I want to see how I'm tracking. We haven't done too much. We haven't gone too deep. How many pages in are we? We're like 1, 2. We're only like 2 pages. Only 2 pages in. Arzera once found Ar-Asi sitting and saying, Ar-Simon ben Lakish said in the name of Ar-Yehuda Hanasi as follows. It once happened that they forgot to bring a knife for circumcision on the eve of Sabbath, so they brought it on Sabbath. This angered the sages very much for the reason that the decree of the former sages had been set aside and that they had acted according to the decree of Ar-Elazar. Firstly, because Ar-Elazar was an adherent of the school of Shammai, and secondly, because where one man is opposed to a number, the majority should prevail, and the majority was against Ar-Elazar and Ar-Osiah, against the sages, who were angered that the case was not as it appeared to them. Though he was angered by it, meaning that he assumed that he did it on purpose, I suppose. For said he, I asked Arehuda the circumciser, and he told me that the knife was brought through an alley which was not combined by an erub from one end to the other, but not through the public ground. Okay, so that goes way back to the beginning of the book when we're talking about passing objects around, right? Okay, so, the School of Shammai. All right. Babylonian Talmud. I'm just using that to get us there. School of Shammai and and contentions. I think contentions is a proper word. Babylon Talmud, School of Shammai, and contentions. Let me see. Okay, Hillel and Shammai. Okay, this must be about, I guess, Hillel and Shammai, just these two houses of Hillel, house of Shammai. Okay, all right. So there's two houses competing in the Babylonian Talmud. Let's get an overview. This is something that is not being directly addressed in the Talmudic content itself. In the 1st century BCE, Babylonian-born Hillel, later known as Hillel the Elder, migrated to the land of Israel to study the work as a woodcutter, eventually becoming the most influential force in Jewish life. So he was specifically Babylonian-born, went into Israel. Now, how does that... Now, is there anybody who's Israel-born? So anyway, Hillel is said to have lived in such great poverty that he was sometimes unable to pay the admission fee to study Torah, and because of him, that fee was abolished. He was known for his kindness, gentleness, concern for humanity. One of the most famous sayings recording in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, a tractate of the Mishnah, is, if I am not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, then what am I? And if not, how, when? The Hillel organization, a network of Jewish colleges. Can I close this? Thank you. College students organizations is named for him. Hillel and his descendants established academies of learning and were the leaders of Jewish community in the land of Israel for several centuries. The Hillel dynasty ended with the death of Hillel in 365 CE, Common Era, or AD if you want to be like that. All right, so Hillel the Elder's friendly adversary was Shammai, a native of the land of Israel, but whom little is known except that he was a builder known for the strictness of his views. So he was a builder. So Hillel was a woodcutter, and he was a builder. So that's interesting. Hillel's mind was a mind of chopping things down, breaking things down. Think of Rush and the song The Trees. And Shammai is a builder, meaning he's taking things, he's putting things together. So one guy takes stuff apart, another guy puts things together. So you've got the creator and the destroyer. Where is the preserver? Hillel the Elder's friendly adversary was Shammai, a native of the land. Okay, so builder, strict as the views. He was reputed to be dour, quick-tempered, and impatient. Ah, I see. Both lived during the reign of King Herod. Oh, this is Herodic fucking history here. So this is all. These guys are the minds. This is like, I think we're seeing the left-right paradigm now. right? It's just not being clearly delineated, right? They're not saying, well, as we all know, Hillel was way fucking lenient. Hillel's the poor guy. He's an outsider, and he's got liberal values because he's dirt poor, because I guess the woodcutter profession, you're in 37 BCE in Israel. Yeah, there's not forests around. You went in, like being a woodcutter in 37 BCE, you might as well be an artist in 1920s Germany. Right? It's this situation. And he's coming in. So Hillel is kind of Jewing Shammai's thing. Shammai's the native. But here's the thing, right? Shammai is the strict one. He's the right-hand path guy. Right? So this is your left-right paradigm. Which, I mean, like, it's obvious to see that there's a left-right paradigm. But now, one could go back, delineating everything I'm looking at, and then just figuring out, okay, who in this line of arguments is a Hillel guy? Who in this line of arguments is a Shammai guy, right? Because this is Sunni and Shia, right? This is a Sunni Shia kind of situation. This is Martin Luther versus the Pope. Okay? All right. An operative period in Jewish history because of the Roman occupation of the land of Israel. It wasn't occupation. That was Rome. That was Rome. You weren't occupied. You didn't have a nation. You were given a state in Rome. Shammai was concerned that if Jews had too much contact with the Romans, the Jewish community would be weakened, and the attitude was reflected in his strict interpretation of Jewish law. Hillel did not share Shammai's fear and therefore was more liberal in his views. So you got to see, whichever Jesus was carrying the views that became the gospel persecuted views by the Pharisees. The Pharisees would likely have been Shammai, right? I don't remember what was said about the Pharisees' relationship with the Essenes, but my assumption is that the Essenic Messiah of a particular sect, the prophecy of the Essenes Messiah, interpretation of the Messiah, was chosen by the Romans because that was the most imperially convenient of the 13 tribes' attitudes and such. Anyway. Yeah, here's the Sanhedrin, which is the whole Pharisee situation. Hillel was the more popular of the two scholars, and he was chosen by the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish court, to serve as its president. Okay, so Hillel comes in, and this guy, he's kind of like that outsider. He's like Barack Obama. He's like Mamdani, you know? This is the Setian influence coming in, complete with the liberalism, right? It's bringing in greater Rome and extra Roman neighbors, because the state of Israel is got some. It's all in the Jewish war. You guys should know all that, right? While Hillel and Shammai themselves did not differ on a great many basic issues of Jewish law, their disciples were often in conflict. The Talmud records over 300 differences of opinion between Beit Hillel, the house of Hillel, and Beit Shammai, the house of Shammai. The rabbis of the Talmud generally... Whoops. That's funny. What just happened there? Check your proxy, refresh. That's hysterical. All right, can I go back? All right, if I go back. Oh, okay. That was weird. We're fine. All right. All I had to do was go back. Generally strict rules of the Rabbi Isaac Lurie. Hold on a sec. Disciples are often in conflict. Close this. Talmud generally sided with the ruling of the school of Hillel, although the sages believe both views were valid. Now, by what grounds did they say both views were valid? And did it have much or not much to do with how they were fighting amongst themselves on a level that made them out of control and needed to be addressed by the Romans? So anyway, I think that's good for understanding this particular situation. So I'm going to close that down. Okay. Let me see. How many pages in are we now? Wow, we've gone nowhere. Arzera then said to Arasi, "Does the master hold that things may be removed in an alley which was not combined by an erub?" By Arasi answered that they might. Said Arzera again, "Did I not ask thee once before, and thou gavest me another answer? Was it because thou wast engaged in other matters, and this halakha escaped thee?" And the answer was, such was the case. Arhaya Baraba said in the name of Ar Yohanan, the rule laid down by Ar Elazar, that for everything pertaining to circumcision, the Sabbath may be violated, does not apply also to other duties of the day, which should happen to fall on the Sabbath, because where the preparations necessary for bringing of the 2 loaves on Pentecost are concerned, Our Elazar permitted them to be made on Sabbath merely through deduction by analogy, although this was also a duty of the day based on biblical ordinance, which other duties of the day does Ar Yohanan intend to accept from this rule. We know that in preparing the booth, the palm branch, and all their accessories for the Feast of Booths, the Sabbath may be violated. The same is the case with lulab, with matzah, like matzo ball soup, and with shofar, as it is stated in other borethas, such as the dictum of Ar Elazar, said Ar Eda bar Ahaba. Ar Yohanan intended to accept zitzith, show threads, for a garment, and mezuzah, sounds like Methuselah almost, mezuzah, doorpost inscription for a house, although both of these are duties of the day. For if a man wear a garment, he must have zitzith, and if he enter a house, he must have mezuzah. This we have also learned in a Boretha. They all agree, even Elizar, that if one made a show thread for his garment or a mezuzah for his door on the Sabbath, he is liable for a sin offering. Why so? Said Ar Yosef, because no specific time is set for the accomplishment of these duties. Said Ebai to him, on the contrary, just because no specified time was set for the accomplishment of the duty, every moment is the same for performing it. So, if he have the garment on Sabbath to enter the house on that day, he should perform those duties, and hence it must be considered a duty of the day. Therefore said Ar Nahaman, in the name of Ar Yitzchak, and according to other Ar Huna, the son of Ar Yehoshua, the reason is because one is enabled to abandon these things for the time being, and hence the duties does not devolve upon him for that day. Okay. We're going to take another break. We're going to go a little over 3 hours tonight because I don't want to have zero time on the other end of the break. So we might go maybe like 11:15. But I do like the way that this whole stream has gone. Whether anybody leaves comments or not, I know that there were some serious gems that everybody needed to hear in here. And the synchronicity that these little... isn't it fascinating, though? Persia, right? And this... and he came... The Hillel guy came from Persia. Okay. All right, here we go. This is that other song I mentioned before. Bisuye Marg. Oop, there we go. Hey, good. All right, cool. So that was the last song for the night. We're gonna, have at it for another 15-ish, 20-ish minutes, I suppose. All right. For what we have learned above, we see that for the circumcision itself and all its necessary accessories, the Sabbath may be violated, according to the dictum of our Eleazar. Whence does he deduce this? This is the reading of our Eleazar. It is written, Leviticus 13:3, and on the 8th day shall the flesh of his foreskin be circumcised. Thus, as it says distinctly, the 8th day, it makes no difference what J the 8th falls on, whether it is Sabbath or not. Let us see. The rabbis and Eleazar differ only as far as the preparations for circumcision on the Sabbath are concerned, but not as to the circumcision itself. If then they do not regard the text quoted as does our Eleazar, they should not even permit the violation of the Sabbath on account of circumcision itself. What source do they base their permission on? Said Ula and also our Itzhak. This is traditional. An objection was raised. We have learned that the Sabbath may be violated in order to save life. Whence do we know this? Said Ar Eleazar ben Azariah. Why, if it be permitted when circumcision is concerned to violate the Sabbath, where but one of the many members of the body is concerned, it should certainly be permitted in so much greater a degree when the whole body is to be saved. If thou sayest then that the permission to perform circumcision on the Sabbath is only traditional, how is it possible that thou shouldst derive an a fortiori assumption from a traditional institution? So there they go, they leaning on the Latin again because they don't have a word for it in Babylonian law. That's obviously a lost word. Or perhaps it's an entire lost function of Babylon that then had to be replaced with a Roman idea. Therefore, Ar Yohanan saith that the permission to perform the rite of circumcision on Sabbath is not based upon tradition, but is derived from the word day, as the verse quoted above reads, and on the 8th day, etc., or as it could read simply, on the 8th, for in the preceding verse we read 7 days, etc. That the permission to perform the rite of circumcision on Sabbath is not based upon tradition. Okay. I mean, that still kind of sounds like it's tradition, just tradition by law. Said Resh Lakish to Ar Yohanan, the word day, however, is also necessary that we may know that the rite must be performed during the day and not at night. This can be inferred from another passage, Genesis 17:12, where it expressly says, and at 8 days old shall every man-child in your generation be circumcised, etc. Right. Okay, so that circumcision in Genesis that didn't pop up when I was looking for it by name earlier on up here. I still even have the page in Deuteronomy open that I was looking at. Let's reopen the system. And what page is it saying? Okay, 17:12. Let's take a look at Genesis 17:12. Because what you're seeing is a progression of the manner in which the administration of a practice develops, right? There's stuff in Genesis that then gets more formalized in Exodus and further formalized in Numbers and Leviticus and Deuteronomy. This was 17 what again? 1712. Yep, okay. So here is circumcised. And I guess if I had written it with a D, it would have popped up. The search engine's not very intuitive. Okay? Throughout your generations, every male among you shall be circumcised when he is 8 days old. Anyone born in the household of or acquired with money from any foreigner's son who is not your seed. Gotcha. So if you're a Gentile and you are owned as a house servant, a slave, you have to be circumcised. So here's, okay, so it says more, it mentions circumcision. All right, let me go back. Okay, what's going on in verse 1? When Abram, okay, so he's being called Abram. Oh, okay, hold on. Are we back with his covenant? Exceedingly fruitful. I have my covenant between me and you. I'm spoken as you shall keep my covenant, you shall have seed. Okay, so yourselves, you seed after you, and every male among you be. So, namely, you will be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this will be the covenant sign between me and you. All right. And then throughout your generations, he shall be circumcised, circumcised. Why does he say circumcised twice? To be circumcised, he shall be circumcised. All right, so what he is saying, emul, immule. Emule, that's too close to ernmusil and it bothers me. But emule to immule. To emulate to emulate. Think about that for a minute. To be circumcised, he shall be circumcised. So it's the to be to the he shall be. So what he is saying is that he's got to be circumcised, so therefore you're going to circumcise him. That's all that means. Very simple, straightforward, blunt force language. One born of the household of you and acquisition of silver of you, and she becomes covenant of me in flesh of you for the covenant of Eon. All right. As for the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, this soul will be cut off from his people. He has annulled my covenant. All right. I'd like to be in this camp, please. Thank you. All right, and so that's everything in that chapter on the subject. Whoops. There. Ar-Eha Bar Jacob said, as far as the rite of circumcision itself is concerned, the rabbis also hold that the permission to perform it is based on the passage quoted, and on the 8th day, but as for the preparations necessary for circumcision, they claim to find no justification for violating the Sabbath on what account. But it is absolutely necessary that the 8th be mentioned, for otherwise how would we know that the rite should not be performed on the 7th? That is also definitely settled by the other passages. As stated above, and at 8 days old, etc., still both passages are necessary in order to prove that the 8th day is the day for circumcision. Because if it did not state expressly on the 8th day, it might be presumed that the 7th day would do, and if it did not state at 8 days old, it might be presumed that after the child is 8 days old and any other later, e.g. the 9th, would do. Hence, Yohanan's explanation is the most acceptable, and we have learned in a Boretha in support of Yohanan's explanation and not of that of Eha Bar Jacob as follows. On the 8th day shall he be circumcised, even though it be Sabbath? How then is it possible to keep the commandment in Exodus 31:14? And ye shall keep the Sabbath, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. This refers to other labor, but not to that of circumcision. How then do we know that circumcision is not included in the prohibited labor, and that the 8th day does not refer to all other days except Sabbath? To this end, it reads the 8th day, and the day means even on Sabbath. Okay. That, I think, is good, honestly. I don't think I can handle much more today. How many pages in did we get? 2, 3, 4. We got about 4.5 pages in. I think that's pretty good. This is going to be probably broken up over 2 more sessions because it's a longer chapter anyway. That's the show for tonight. I want to thank Pasta for showing up in the chat room. I want to thank anybody else who came through for the duration of the broadcast. I think I had about 12 viewers overall. And yeah, I'll probably take a break from doing a formal live stream unless I feel like doing it in the early afternoon for some reason. Or whatnot. I probably want to do some more personal stuff tomorrow. But I'd imagine Thursday. I wouldn't want to be off of it for too long. All right, man. Peace out.